So, dear students, good afternoon, and welcome to the last lesson of the course. Oops. If you remember, we are discussing about non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents. We have already seen different classes. The most important class is the derivatives of propionic acid, if you remember.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
Yeah, please.
I'm not sharing.
Okay. Once again. Now?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, Caterina, grazie. Thank you. Okay. So we have seen different classes of these agents. All the classes. The most recent class is this one, benzothiazine derivatives. Benzothiazine. Benzo, because there is an aromatic ring. Thia means sulfur. Azo, if you remember, is nitrogen. This class is quite strange from the chemical point of view. If you remember, two rings, an aromatic ring without any substituents, okay. On the other, you can see different heteroatoms, but in particular, you see this OH function with a double bond. This means that this function is related to an equilibrium between, here you see, an oxygen which can lose a proton. And so this means that this function is an acidic function. As I told you before, during the last week, I told you that it is important, the acidic function, in order to interact with arginine 120 at the beginning of the tunnel of the cyclooxygenase, if you remember. And so more or less, all anti-inflammatory agents of this class have this type of function, an acidic function, masked or unmasked. In this case, OH is not a clear acidic function, but we'll see that it's possible to lose the acidic proton in order to have a negative charge, and this negative charge is able to interact with arginine 120, which has a positive charge by an ionic bond. In particular, you see the negative charge is delocalized, is distributed on the whole system, and this means that there is the conjugate base is stabilized by resonance. The negative charge can be delocalized, you see, in all systems. Why this class is so interesting? In this class, it's possible to perform some modification in order to increase the selectivity toward the cyclooxygenase of type 2. If you remember, there are at least two different types of cyclooxygenases. Type 1, which is normally present in the stomach, constitutive, and type 2, which is inducible in the area of injury. We'll see that it's not true, but at the beginning, some years ago, the scientists believed in this classification. In particular, we can start from the chemical structure of piroxicam. This class is also called oxycams, you see, oxycam. So we have piroxicam. Piroxicam is the prototype of this class. And we can perform some light chemical modification on the chemical structure of piroxicam in order to increase the selectivity toward the cyclooxygenase of type 2. What kind of modification can we perform? We try to enlarge the side chain. In particular, you see in the piroxicam there is a pyridine ring. We can modify, we can replace this pyridine ring with another aromatic ring, but with an additional methyl group. So we can enlarge the structure on the right, but also we can enlarge the chemical structure on the left. You see the case of lornoxicam. We have a thiophene group, a thiophene ring with an additional chlorine. These additional chemical groups can interact with the additional pocket present in cyclooxygenase of type 2. And so we'll see how this pocket is formed and how these compounds are able to interact with this small pocket present in cyclooxygenase of type 2. Okay, we have already seen the acidity of this proton. It's possible the loss of the acidic proton in order to have this molecule with a negative charge able to interact with the arginine 120. The stabilization of the conjugate base, you see, through the delocalization of the minus charge. The pKa is about 6.3, so it is comparable with the pKa of the other classes, derivative of propionic acid, of acetic acids, and so on. Well absorbed, excreted in inactive metabolites, better tolerated than aspirin and indomethacin. For the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis. What means for the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis? In the old people, this disease is a chronic disease. And so it is necessary a long time treatment for this type of disease. And so we need drugs with a low toxicity because we have to use this compound for a long time in old people, which perhaps they take also other drugs. And so we have to avoid an excessive work to our liver. Please don't forget that all compounds of this big class of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents have also other two important activities, analgesic and antipyretic. So anti-inflammatory at first, analgesic, painkiller, antipyretic, they are able to decrease the body temperature. Okay, SAR, we see that there are a lot of compounds in this class because every company wants to have a derivative in this class because this class is the best seller together with the derivative of propionic acid, ibuprofen, for example. How we can synthesize this type of derivative? The synthesis is very easy. Why? Because there is an important starting point. This starting point is called saccharin. Saccharin was a sweetening agent in the past, used in the past instead of sugar, suggested for diabetic patients when it was necessary to maintain a low sugar blood concentration. And saccharin has a strange history. It was discovered about in the 60s by a scientist who was working on this class of compound. And in that time, this scientist smoked a lot in lab. He put his cigarette on the desk, where there was a spot of saccharin. And when he smoked again the cigarette, he felt a sweet taste on the tongue. Oh, why? Saccharin is sweet. And so, okay, today it's forbidden to smoke in the lab. Today you have to clean your desk. Okay. In that time, in the lab, the situation was different. And so the discovery of saccharin is related to a cigarette of a scientist. This is the strange history of this compound. Saccharin was used in the past, and now no more because it is cancerogenic at high concentration. It is able to interact with the DNA. But however, it was used for a long time from all people in coffee, in chocolate, where you want. So, if you see the chemical structure of saccharin, you see that there is the benzene ring, okay. But the other ring is a 5-member ring, but we need a 6-member ring. How it is possible to enlarge the number of atoms of the second ring? If you see, there is an acidic proton. This proton present on the nitrogen. Why it is an acidic proton? Because if you see, it is like a sulfonamide. So there is a sulfur atom with 2 oxygen atoms. So we have a strong withdrawing effect. There is another carbonyl compound And so the minus charge after the loss of the acidic proton can be delocalized on the carbonyl and the sulfur, and on the two oxygens of sulfur. So with a strong base, we can extract, we can take the proton away, we can have a minus charge here, and then nucleophilic attack to this derivative of acetic acid. An ester, bromine ester of acetic acid. We can have a simple nucleophilic substitution on this carbon atom. If you see, we have the addition of the carbon atom. Okay. We can draw just a moment. We can open, can draw once again for the last time. Can have this compound. Sulfur atom in this position. Sorry, I have to share the screen. Just a moment. Okay. Sorry. And then, so oxygen, NH in this position, and then we can here the oxygen in this position. Okay, what happened with a strong base here? Sodium methoxide is a very strong base. We have already described this type of base. And so we can have this situation. Minus charge in this position. Okay. Plus B, R, C. You see this derivative of acetic acid. As I told you before, we can have this type of substitution on this carbon atom, because you see there is an halogen. So it's possible to have a simple nucleophilic substitution in this position. So we can have this type of compound. Oops, doesn't work today. Don't know why. Okay, quite strange. Oh, right. We are in a very, very basic condition. You can see this proton, one of these two protons. Once again, we have one acidic proton in this position. Why? Because on your right you have a ester group, with 2 oxygen, more electronegative, if you remember. Once again, you have a sulfonamide group. This means that it's possible to take 1 proton away. Here. And we can have this type of situation. Oh, sorry. Questo. Okay. At this point, this proton with a negative charge can attack this carbonate. If you remember, in a carbonyl group, carbon has a partial positive charge. What we can put here the positive, and the negative is in this position, okay. And so we can have this type of attack, a nucleophilic attack on the carbonyl, on the carbon of the carbonyl group. And in this way, we have the expansion, a ring expansion. You see, we can have this type of compound. If you want, we can draw better this one. No. This one, okay. This one. So if you see, we have a 6-member ring now. We had a ring expansion by the attack of the carbon in alpha to the ester group on the carbonyl of the ring. Now, keto enolic tautomerism, we can have this type of situation. You want, I can draw better. Yes. Okay. Chapter 3. At this point, we have an activated acidic function, carboxylic function. Why is it activated? Because you see, it is an ester. So it is possible a condensation of this compound, for example, with a base. So we can use this type of base, for example. Once again, nitrogen atom has a lone pair. if you remember, able to give an attack on the carbonyl group this way, and then we can get the formation of an amide. Here. This point, this way. Okay. Here. So on this ring you can put different substituents in order to have the different oxycoms of this class. So the last step is only related to the formation of the different oxycoms. The most important part is the ring expansion, starting from saccharin, 5-member rings, expansion to 6-member ring, ester function, reaction with an amine to give an amide. This is the general synthesis. This represents the general synthesis of oxycoms. Is it clear? No? Yes? Yes? Have you any questions at home about this reaction? No? Have you seen the reaction on ChemDraw? Yes? The chat. Okay, Terence, perfect. Okay. This is the last synthesis of the course. Just a moment, I have to share my screen. Once again. Okay. Okay. There are still two classes of the anti-inflammatory agents. Anylides. Anylides. What means anylides? This term means amides of aniline. Once again, we can use ChemDraw with a new document. Just a moment. Okay. What is aniline? Aniline is this one. Aniline is an aromatic amine. What means anylides? Amides. The same sound. We can make an amide on the basic function. For example, this one. And there is also a phenolic function. This molecule is called paracetamol acetaminophen. The commercial name in Italy, tachipirina. Very used during the COVID infection to control the body temperature. Paracetamol is able to cross the blood-brain barrier to interact with the center responsible for the control of the body temperature and to inhibit the formation of prostaglandins at the central level. But it is toxic. Why? Once again, please check carefully its structure. If we have the hydrolysis of the amide bond, we have once again the formation of this para-aminophenol, which can be oxidized in presence of oxygen to give an aminoquinone. Once again, we have seen different types, different type of structure. Toxic. Why aminoquinone is toxic? Oh, sorry, there is no H. It's as oxygen, sorry. Oops. Yeah. Michael addiction. Michael addiction. I don't know if you say in German or English, but this means that this compound is able to interact with the nucleophilic group present in the active site of enzymes. At the beginning, we can have glutathione, if you remember. Glutathione. It is characterized by S- group. Glutathione can give an attack on the alpha-beta unsaturated carbon atom to block the reactivity of the aminoquinone. But the quantity of glutathione in the cells are limited. So if we use for a long time this type of compound, we can finish the available quantity of glutathione in the cells, and then after glutathione we can have interaction with other nucleophile groups perhaps present where? In the DNA. N7 of guanine. So we can have an interaction, a reaction, chemical reaction of the aminoquinone with important nucleophiles in the DNA, but also, for example, in the active site of the different enzymes. And so iminoquinone is able to block the activity of the important enzymes inside the liver. You know that we need this type of reaction for our life. This is the high toxicity of this compound. It is useful, yes, but for a short period. For a long period, we can have the block, the stop of the entire important enzymes in our liver. This compound was discovered by a mistake. Once again. In 50s, there was another drugs used instead of paracetamol. This ether, you see. Oxygen, CH2, CH3. Acetaminophen. Oh no, it's another name, but now no more used. But in that time, very common. And the chemists prepared big quantities of this compound for the hospital, for the patients in the hospital. In one lab, in a hospital, there were two chemists, and one chemist remained at home because he was sick, and the other one believed that the synthesis was finished, and he prepared different doses with the powder of this ether compound. So this compound was used in the hospital. Medical doctor found a nice activity. And when the second chemist came back again to the lab, he said, have you finished, to the first chemist, have you finished the reaction? The compound was ready. No, it was not ready. So we have used the wrong compound, yes, and the wrong compound was this, which was an intermediate of the ether. So everything went well in the hospital. High activity, low toxicity. And so a new compound was discovered in this way. Yes. This is an inhibitor of the central cyclooxygenases. Yes. Very useful to control the body temperature. In some case of headache, but you have to use this compound very carefully. When the fever is over 38, no more than 1 week. For longer time, you have to use other ibuprofen or Oxycontin. Okay. And now we can see again the slides. Okay. The old compound was called phenacetin. You see the ether function here. So now replaced by paracetamol. You see the toxicity of acetaminophen once again. You see the formation of aniline, okay, but also if you see this pathway, you see the formation of the aminoquinone, once again, reaction with glutathione, but at the end, when glutathione is finished, hepatic proteins can interact. So we can have the formation of a covalent bond in the active site of the hepatic enzymes. And also hemolytic anemia, so you see, is not so safe, this compound. Last class, pyrazolones. This class, the prototype of this class is aminopyrin. The commercial name is Novalgina in Italy. This compound was used in tones during the 70s and 80s, especially to control the body temperature and also as against a strong headache. But it has also a serious side effects. In particular, you see fatal cases of agranulocytosis, marked decrease in white blood cells, and also hemolytic anemia. So this compound is still present in pharmacy, but under prescription by medical doctors. It's not free. And so you can use this type of compound, but under medical prescription due to the severe side effects. So you can understand it's not so important. My son had a fifth disease, the medical doctor said. During July in Bologna, fever over 41, and the standard temperature was about 35. And the medical doctor said me to use only for one time a mixture of Novalgina, this pyrazolone, with paracetamol. Only for one time, just to decrease the temperature. We try to cool the water, we try to everything, but the temperature remained over 41. And so you know it's danger, this type of high temperature, because you can have effect on the brain. And so only for one day we used this type of mixture of these two drugs, and the temperature decreased about 38, really. And so it's possible, one shot, a mixture of the two. Last part of the lesson, selective cyclooxygenase 2 inhibitors. We have already described the difference in the chemical structure between the two cyclooxygenases. In particular, you can see there is a small pocket in cyclooxygenase of 2 type due to a different amino acid in this position. You see this line. This line is arachidonic acid. If we have an anti-inflammatory agent inside the cyclooxygenase, you see that the tunnel, the gorge is blocked, physically blocked by the presence of the anti-inflammatory drug. And so it is not possible the entrance of the arachidonic acid inside the tunnel to be transformed in prostaglandins. How we can reach the selectivity toward the cyclooxygenase of 2 type? If you remember, I told you that it's possible by introducing an additional side chain to have the interaction with this pocket, additional pocket in cyclooxygenase of 2 type. Here you see the difference between the two cyclooxygenases. We have an isoleucine in cyclooxygenase 2 and 1, and a valine in cyclooxygenase of 2 type. Valine is smaller than isoleucine, and so it's possible the formation of this additional pocket. Only one amino acid is different. Here you see the superimposed residues of the two forms of cyclooxygenases. You see tyrosine 385 located at the end in this position. Important to start the radical reaction responsible to the formation of the different prostaglandins. Serine 530, which is acetylated by aspirin, acetylsalicylic acid. Arginine 120. But please see here isoleucine 523 and valine 509. We have the difference of one carbon group, methyl group. A very small difference, but it is enough to design selective inhibitor of COX-2. How we can reach the selectivity towards COX-2 instead to COX-1? We have flurbiprofen. Flurbiprofen, it is a derivative of propionic acid, you see. If we introduce these two side arms, side chains, we can have a selective interaction with the COX-2, but not with COX-1. Why? Because you see the volume of this new derivative is bigger than the volume of flurbiprofen, and this bigger structure is not able to enter in COX-1 because there is no the side pocket. The modified flurbiprofen is able to enter only in COX-2. Another example, aspirin can be modified by this long side chain in order to have a selective interaction with the COX-2. Here you see a selective inhibitor of COX-2 called celecoxib. It has this side chain. In COX-1, it's not able this compound to enter the tunnel because it has a bigger shape, while it is able, this compound, to enter in COX-2, you see, to accommodate this additional aromatic ring on the side pocket. You see, once again in this picture, the same concept. Here you see a series of different selective or partial selective COX-2. In particular, you see nimesulide. The commercial name is Aulin, very common in Italy, but you can use this compound under prescription because it is a partial COX-2 inhibitor. But why we can use this COX-2 selective only under medical doctor prescription? Because they have severe side effects. You see, these three compounds are called coxibs because celecoxib, rofecoxib, heterocoxib. These three compounds are able to block selectively COX-2 and not COX-1. If COX-1 is not inhibited, we can have the formation of a thromboxane A2. Thromboxane are able to promote thrombosis, to form blood aggregates. So COX-1 is free, can work, can form thromboxane. COX-2 is inducible, yes, but it is also constitutive. In particular, it is present in the endothelium. And COX-2 is responsible for the formation of prostacyclin, which reduces thrombosis, the risk of thrombosis. So you understand, prostacyclin and thromboxane should be in equilibrium if we want to have a perfect dynamic balance of the two effects. COX-1 promotes thrombosis, COX-2 reduces thrombosis. If we block only COX-2, we have an unbalanced situation in which COX-1 is still active and can form blood aggregates. In that time, when these three companies produced on the market these three compounds, they knew the situation. They had results about the phase 1 and phase 2 situation on the two different COX. They knew the situation, but they introduced these three compounds on the market knowing the side effects. after different cases of infarcts, heart infarcts, some people asked to the company money. You know, it is possible to organize a social of operation against the company, because on the records of the phase 1 and phase 2 was reported these side effects. And so now it's possible to use these compounds only under medical prescription, only for a restricted number of pathologies. And you know, no business, and so they remain only as drugs, but not bestseller. Okay, dear students, we are at the end. We have seen different families of drugs during the course. You have seen how drugs can act inside our body. And so if you have any questions, general questions, at home, have you any questions? No? Okay, you can contact me by mail. If you need explanation, description, what you want, we can meet together on Teams, or if you see here in Rimini. So you can find all the lesson on the record material, so you can see again my lessons. At the end of the course, I want to give you some important recommendations. We had an accident in the lab, and so it is important that you keep a medical emergency ID card in your wallet. If you use drugs, if you have particular diseases, please put a note on your wallet, because you are in another nation, you know, in another situation. Details on emergency contacts. We need to know which we have to contact in case of emergency. If you are in lab, you can take a paper with this type of indication on your lab coat pocket here. It's important, because perhaps the other students know you, but they don't know where you live, which are your parents, your friends. So it's important to have emergency number. And also, please, these are general suggestions. Follow the prerequisites required for the labs, for the courses. A lot of students wrote me about, Professor, organic chemistry is necessary for the lab. Yes, I don't know why. It is written on the web page. Another recommendation is unsubscribe from the exam list if you don't plan to take it, please. Professor can go in Rimini for you, and you are not present. Perhaps you are the only one in that day. And so the professor take the train for you, 1 hour and a half trip, and then he is alone. Please, really, it's important. And another important point, if you have already passed an exam, it's not possible to make the exam again, to have an higher score. It's not possible in Italy. If you have a score, if you accepted a score, this is the score. It's not possible to make again. You have to refuse the score. Okay, in this case it's possible. But when the score is recorded, it's not possible to make the exam again. Because a lot of students are present in a second call, second exam. Yes, I want to try again. No, it's not possible. You vote 26, but I want 30. No, it's not possible. You accept 26 and 26 you score. If you want to refuse your score, you have to make a request to the Senato Accademico. Then you have to wait, I think, 1 year, more or less. Yeah. And so please, really, think about these points. And because they are important points. You know, we are, it is our first experience in an international course. And so now we have seen this type of problems, and I think we can apply this type of solutions. Have you any questions at home? No? Ok, tanto finisco questa. Sì?